Hi there, I'm Tim Autrey, and welcome to Principle Based Performance Improvement, where we combine timeless wisdom with modern science and practical tools to help you move yourself and your organization toward better, safer, and more productive outcomes.
So these are the primary performance needs. These are adapted from a course created by Tony Robbins called Creating Lasting Change. And when Tony Robbins got to a certain point in his career and he'd had all this real-world experience of watching people absolutely transform because of employing the techniques that he had learned and all of that, he put together a course for psychologists to teach them a lot of the stuff that he had learned. And that's what this course is, Creating Lasting Change. Again, if you really want to go deeper into what we're talking about here, highly recommend you buy that course. You can go on to tonyrobbins.com and buy a copy of it. Fantastic course. We are employing it here. And by the way, he calls it Human Performance Needs. We changed the name to Primary Performance Needs. And we're applying it directly to how to use the individual performance model. So let me go over here to the whiteboard for just a second. Let's say I want to influence this person right here. I'm out here, right? So I have to get through their mindset and their perception in order to even generate any thoughts, feelings, and etc. Because what I'm looking for is them making different choices to do different things and do things in different ways. So first thing you have to realize is any person that you want to influence has a mindset about you. And the first question I want to ask you is, who's predominantly responsible for that mindset about you? You are. So if every time you attempt to talk to your 14-year-old daughter and she just rolls her eyes and does whatever, that's because her mindset about you is not necessarily positive. Well, you are primarily responsible for having created that mindset. And because, in that case, her mindset could be generally negative about you, she's going to be looking for and amplifying anything negative she can find. Perception. Again, this is going to be about specific things. And let's go back and talk generically now. So you need to get through all of this personality stuff before you have a prayer of influencing this individual. So as we talked about in the individual or in the personal screening process, you want to come at this from a perspective of what's in it for them with your best understanding of their current mindset and perception. Simple, right? Well, if you're around somebody for any time and you understand how this model works, you actually can use that. What we discovered over time, though, when I came across Tony's course, was it makes an understanding of this a whole lot simpler relative to influencing this person. So we're going to go back over and talk now on the PowerPoint. These primary performance needs give you a much simpler way of understanding how to approach this individual. So let's go talk about it. The idea behind this is there are 6 predominant or primary needs that human beings have. We have these to differing degrees. However, virtually all of us have some level of all 6 of them. I don't want to speak in absolutes, but essentially that's the case. And the idea is, out of these 6, for most people there are generally 2 that pop out as most predominant. Notice these are called needs, not desires or wants or someday I want to haves, right? These are needs. So if you can figure out a way to fulfill these, you have tremendous opportunity to influence. So let's talk about what they are. And these are fill in the blanks on page 43 of your handout. You want to be sure and write these in. So the first one is consistency. So someone who has a high level consistency need likes things to stay the same. They will typically wear the same type of clothes. They typically have jobs where things don't change a lot. A stereotype profession of somebody who has a high level of consistency need would be an accountant, right? You're dealing with 9 digits and X number of columns, and day after day after day, the numbers change, but the box that they're in doesn't change at all. So again, that's stereotyping. One of the tells of somebody with a high consistency need, and you know what a tell is, right? If you're playing poker, for example, and you happen to notice over time that this person you're playing with, every time they end up with a good hand, they do something like this. And they're not even aware that they're doing that. That's a pretty darn good piece of information for you to have right there, because you can often, if you know that, you know whether they're bluffing or not. Because if you're determining whether or not you're going to make the next bet and they've done this, you know they probably actually have a pretty darn good hand. So that's a tell. One of the predominant tells for somebody with a high consistency need is they have an inordinate focus upon being on time. Now, being on time professionally is very important. We already talked about that. Show up on time, right? However, this would be someone who's just acutely watching the clock all the time, and you can't be a minute late for, when they go to bed, or they can't be a minute late going over to mom and dad's for dinner, or whatever it happens to be. So that's a tell of somebody with a high consistency need. So number 2 is kind of the opposite of this, which is a high variety need, or the need for variety. Now, people with a high need for variety are people that get bored very easily. One of the things about this, so I'll just tell you here, I have a very high variety need and a fairly low consistency need. Now, I have some consistency need, but I have a high variety need. One of the tells for that is people that get bored really quickly, very easily. These are folks that are constantly wanting to do something different. You go out to a restaurant, these are the folks that'll immediately scan the menu for something they've never had before. I do that all the time. I love to have something I've never had before because it's filling my variety need. So kind of the opposite, but once again, all of us have some level of all 6 of these. Number 3, love and connectedness. This is where your need for close relationships comes into play. And for some people, this is a lot higher than others. In the workplace, somebody who has a high love and connectedness need, these are probably the folks that always know when somebody's birthday's coming up, or somebody's anniversary's coming up, or somebody's having a baby or a grandbaby, and they bring in the birthday cake and they pass around the card for everybody to sign. Chances are really good that's someone with a high love and connectedness need. Number 4 is significance. Now, significance is a need that kind of gets a bad rap. Think about this. So somebody donates $10 million to build a new cancer wing on a hospital, and they want their name plastered across the top of the building. And we drive by that building and we say, yeah, they want to have their name put on that building, totally discounting the fact that they gave $10 million to build that, and it's doing a whole lot of good, right? So significance, again, is not right or wrong, should not have a bad rap, and I just about guarantee you, no matter who you are, you have some level of significance. I'll be perfectly honest, I really like my frequent flyer status on American Airlines, the fact that I always get to get up to the front of the line and oftentimes get to sit in the front of the plane and all of that. And it's not because I want people to see me there, it's just an internal thing. It's a validation, and that falls into the significance category. A validation that I spend way too much time on airplanes. That's really what it is. All right, so number 5 is growth. These are folks that are constantly wanting to learn new things and do new things. And then down here, number 6 is contribution. These are folks who have a high need to go beyond themselves. You remember Maslow's hierarchy, where in the last few years of his life he decided and identified there was something beyond self-actualization, and it was self-transcendence, doing something for the benefit of others. Well, some people have a real high need in that area to contribute for the benefit of others, and these would be people that are always volunteering, always giving. I'm going to use myself as an example to demonstrate to you how to use this. Now, I have a hard time narrowing my primary needs down to just 2. I have to bring it down to 3. And my predominant or primary needs are variety, growth, and contribution. And when you look at the way I've lived my life, you can, that pretty much validates that. You can see that that's true. Let's say that I report to you, and there's this new project that's come along, and you're thinking about who the person should be to manage the project or lead the project or whatever, and my name immediately pops into your head. And you think to yourself, well, that's not necessarily right, because I tend to give Tim more work than a lot of the other people, and one of the reasons for that is because I've always been an A player. My whole life, I have always sought to add lots of value. I've worked really hard. It's just part of what makes me me. And again, it's not right or wrong, good or bad, it's just the way I am. So in the work environment, I've always kind of been one of those folks that if you're going to give something to them, they're going to exceed your expectations. That's pretty much what I've always done. So, my name pops into your head. So here's how you would approach me So you'd come up to me and you'd say, Tim, you know, I got this new project, and I was thinking about who the right person would be to give this to, or to lead the project, and your name immediately popped into my mind. Now, you're going to schmooze me a little bit, right? And you say, and I got to tell you, I felt a little bit guilty about that because I think I tend to give you a little more work than some of the other folks on the team, and that's because I know when I give you something, man, you're going to rock. You virtually always exceed my expectations. I don't have to watch over your shoulder. I love that. But I got to tell you, the primary reason why I think you're the right person for this is it's because it's something different than what we normally do around here. And because it's something different than what we normally do around here, you're going to get to learn a lot of new stuff over the course of leading this project. Bingo! And let me tell you what, man, when you pull this one off, you are going to be doing something absolutely magnificent, not just for our team, but for the entire organization. Cha-ching! I'm going to be begging you to give this to me, even though I'm already working, maybe, more than some of the other folks on the team. I don't care, because the way you just approached me is filling my 3 primary needs. That's how you use this. Now, the idea behind including this in this masterclass is to make that whole personality aspect of the individual performance model, mindset, perception, and all of that, a whole lot easier to understand. All you need to do is come at whatever it is you want a person to do, come at it from the perspective of how it fills their primary needs. And your opportunity to influence will be huge.
If you're finding these insights helpful, please share them with your friends and colleagues. Help your search engine find more content like this for you by hitting the like button before you leave. And if these PPI messages resonate with you, subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the next one. Until next time, my friend, be safe, stay humble, and make a difference.